Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us for our educational webinar series on measuring and mastering your digital marketing ROI. Leading us today will be Hubert Hopkins. I'll be doing tech stuff, so if you have any questions, use the chat functions, raise your hands, and at the end, we may take everybody off mute and take some questions. So with that, Hugh, teach us about digital marketing ROI.
Hey, good morning. Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to talk about this subject. It's so important, and so I think you'll find it of value. Before we start, I'd like to just have you think about a story that'll lead us through all of this and really tell the importance of it and put it into perspective. So we're working with a client named Peter Black. Peter's the CEO of a $30 million niche manufacturing company, and he's been CEO about 6 months now. He's under a lot of pressure to grow the company. That was his mandate when he came in. So one of the key questions he has, of course, among others, is where to invest his valuable resources, where he puts his money, particularly in marketing, and where he's going to get the best return on investment for that. So our job is to guide him and to give him tools to help him make that decision. So once Peter's really desperate, he's come to us, and we're going to give him a plan to how to solve this. So Peter knows he's either going to fail because he doesn't get this right, or he's going to succeed with it, and it's going to be great for him. So we help Peter do his smart marketing and become a market leader. So with that, let's talk about the two key questions that we want to answer today. First is, how much should we invest? How much should any company invest in digital marketing, or any kind of marketing for that matter? So that's a question Peter obviously needs to know. He also would like to know what the return on investment is for that resource that he's going to apply to this. Now, it's interesting to me that every prospect and most of our clients, they do want to discuss ROI. We talk about ROI with them on and off, but very few people actually ask the question of how much should we invest. And what I mean by that is a bottoms-up analysis of what are your goals to grow the company, and what is it going to take in terms of digital marketing to achieve, that piece of the growth pie. What investment is that going to take? Usually inertia takes over, and nobody asks that important investment question. So that's why we'd like to give you a few tools today to do better than that. So, it's pretty obvious why it's important, I think. In any business, the business is competitiveness. You're going to have competitors out there who just want to eat your lunch, and you've got big companies. Most of the clients we work with are small and medium-sized businesses, so they've usually got big global competitors as well as small local competitors. So it's a tough market out there. In virtually any business that makes money is going to have competitors. And then there are tons of investment options. You get an email at least every day or two about different ways to generate leads. People have better ideas. There's tons of people who would love to talk to you about the investment options. And then the last thing, of course, if you're a growing company, then investing in marketing, digital marketing, knowing what the return is and where to place that money is just vitally important. So let's talk about why it's so hard. Peter's probably tried this before, and it never quite works out. So let's see if we can find out why, because I think that's the key. First is that if Peter, the CEO, doesn't really drive this, it's probably not going to happen. That, I found we've been doing this 15 years now, and if the CEO or somebody at that senior executive level doesn't ask these questions, it's just not going to happen. The next one is what we call sales attribution. That's who gets credit for the lead. And there's several models possible for this. We're going to talk about this in a little more detail later, because it is probably the critical issue, particularly when you have a larger team working on a marketing campaign. Who gets credit becomes pretty cutthroat. So next is making sales data available. So many companies we see, for some reason, are reluctant to share sales data with their marketing team, share sales data with us. Of course, I understand a little of that. We're a third-party partner. But if you don't share your sales data in terms of revenue and profit per sale and those sorts of things, then you don't have any chance of calculating a return on investment. And we've seen repeatedly that those companies who do share that data, and we have metrics on sales data as well as our marketing metrics, we do a lot better performance-wise. And then related to the same thing as profit per new customer and over what period. Usually we want to look at these things over a couple of years is what we recommend for digital marketing. Now, it can be different time frames for different kinds of investments you make. So just briefly, these are the levers, or this is our 6-step plan that we want to provide to Peter, and this is what sold him on coming to us and helping him with digital marketing. But inside of that, if we know the return on investment of the whole 6-step plan, then we should be able to calculate in some ways a return on investment in the individual piece parts, the levers that we can turn. So, things like strategy, website, driving traffic to it, converting that traffic, retaining it with email marketing and marketing automation, and then testing and improving and analyzing. Those 6 steps all need different levels of investment. So if we could ever get down to a really good ROI on each step of this, then we'd really be in a place for great success. So let's answer the first question first, which was how much you should invest in digital marketing in general. And we say for growing competitive B2B companies, then it should be somewhere between 5 and 10% of revenue should be spent on marketing and lead generation. And in 2021, about half of that should be on digital marketing. Now, it's interesting to note that when we first wrote our first blog about how much you should invest in digital marketing, I think I said back in 2012, that number was 17%. So it's grown from 17 up to 50%. And there's no reason to think, particularly after COVID, that it's not going to continue to grow even more. So now those numbers are gross generalizations. So it all depends on a lot of different things. What industry you're in makes a huge difference. If you're in a consumable kind of marketplace that there's not a lot of competition and the price is set, then you may not need to do a ton of digital marketing. If you've got no competitors and everybody knows you in the local area, if you're a regional company and everybody knows you're the big dog company, then again, you can probably spend less on marketing. Depends on whether you're a B2B or B2C companies. Of course, B2C companies traditionally spend quite a bit more in marketing, and products and services also can make a huge difference. So the type of product you sell. Vitally important is what's your growth mode. And a lot of companies, we look at their websites and we look at their digital presence and we find it's really lacking, but they're not interested in growing. They're in a flat mode. They're fine with that. They're struggling with how to turn over the company. Not everybody's trying to be an aggressively growing company, although our clients always are. But then there's also profitability. So we're a small business. We understand that if Peter doesn't have cash available to pay for digital marketing, then it's not going to get done. So those things are all considerations, and it can create really wide swings in how much you invest as a percentage of revenue. So let's talk about the hard return on investment. So for any investment, of course, ROI is equal to the net additional profit minus the investment, minus that cost of the investment, divided by the investment times 100 to make it turn into a percentage. Pretty easy formula. So I'm going to cover a couple of fairly detailed examples, and I apologize for these being so detailed in the numbers. I think the thing that's important is not so much the numbers themselves, but the fact that the level of detail that is required for calculating a return on investment is not trivial, and it takes a lot of work. The other thing is, if you'd like to have these spreadsheets when we're finished, just chat into Ben, and we'll send you a copy of this spreadsheet, or you can email us later, whatever. We're happy to share these, and nothing all that secret about it. So in this case, what we're looking at is a large sale, a sale that's $100,000 per sale, and we're going to calculate the return on investment just for paid advertising. So this is one little part of digital marketing. So you can see that we're going into this with the assumption that there's about 130,000 total searches per year for the search keywords around this company, the ones that they'd like to be found for. And for a big sale company, we think about 3% of those searches, we can get those as visitors on the website. That's after doing some search engine optimization. Oh, excuse me, this is pay-per-click. So this is with pay-per-click, we can get about that amount of visits is what's possible. So we think about 2% of those are qualified leads. Now that's a fairly low number because it's a high sale item. So that would give us 78 qualified leads per year. And if we can convert 10% of those into actual sales, that's almost 8 sales for the year. It comes up to about $780,000 in new revenue over a couple of year period, and a profit from that of $195,000, assuming a 25% profit margin. So then to calculate that's the return, the net new profit, and then to calculate the cost of the investment, the pay-per-click cost per click is $4. So that results in a $15,600 pay-per-click investment to Google. That's money that goes directly to Google, and then there's our fee to manage it. So that's $6,000 for the year, for a total of $21,600, and then a very healthy 803% return on investment. And this is typically what we see when we work for companies that have really big sales. And it's a lot easier to go through this. It's a lot easier to calculate this intuitively as well. So then if you look, though, there is a small sale example, and this is the other side of this where we have to work a lot harder. So to quickly run through it, if you take the 130,000 searches and you say, okay, we think this time we can get 5% of those through paid advertising. So that's 6,500 visits per year. Same qualified leads, or qualified leads is actually a little bit higher. So we can get 650 of those qualified leads and convert the same 10% of those into sales. That's 65 sales per year, $1,000 per sale. So that's a lot less, $400 per profit, a little higher margin, for a total of $26,000 in net new profit. So the cost per click is probably a little less. So we've split that in half to $2. So now the total investment for the project is about $19,000, and then you've got a 37% return on investment. So that's still a pretty reasonable return on investment over a couple of years. I think most building projects would be challenged to make that. But you can see it takes a lot more. It's going to take a lot more work to make this happen, and you're going to have to watch it a lot closer. If your profits per sale are down in that $400,000 range, you're going to have to work the ROI harder. Okay, so where do we get this data for the calculation? And that was just paid advertising. So Google Analytics and Google Ads data gives us a ton of information in terms of how many website visits, how many leads. We can set up Google Analytics for mini goals and conversions. And so a lot of this data on ROI can come from Google Analytics itself. And of course, Google Ads data provides very exact data in terms of how much the cost was for a month or a year. And then there's sales data, the mystical thing that's so hard to get. Sales data comes from the finance department, and they're just reluctant to share that with other people. But sales data is valuable. No sales data, no return on investment. Next is phone tracking. We haven't talked about that, but we do a lot of phone tracking, and you can't forget about that. Most lead generation is, about people being in person or contact us forms, but we find that in B2B sales, a large percentage, sometimes as high as 50% of the new raw leads come from phone calls. And so we really want to work to make sure that it truly was a sales-related phone call. It wasn't a customer service call or something else. So we have probably 200 or 300 phone numbers that we manage that we can put on an individual landing page. So if we're running a campaign for a trade show and you want to know how many phone calls you got from the trade show campaign, we can track that for you. So that's real important to factor into this ROI as well. And then last but not least is your CRM system and your email marketing data those two things tied together in a marketing automation system can give you the lead quality as well as engagement of different parts of the process. A good marketing automation system can tell you how many times a qualified lead has been to the website and that sort of thing. And that starts to measure engagement, which is a subset of return on investment. So let's talk about lead attribution a little bit more. As I said, it's pretty tough. It's tough because usually for a B2B sale, it's not just a one touch, it's many touches. So let's talk about an example in Peter's company where Peter goes off one day, he goes off to lunch at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and he meets a lead who might need manufacturing services. They like each other, they talk for the usual 2 or 3 minutes and exchange business cards. So they both go home. The prospect, a couple of weeks later, he decides he needs a manufacturer. He thinks of Peter, of course. So he goes in to see, can I find Google? Let me search on Google, and I'll see who else is out there as well. So he goes out and he sees Peter's ad in pay-per-click, or maybe he sees the organic result for Peter's company. He clicks on it. He goes out to the website. He spends 2 or 3 minutes out there. He downloads a white paper or an ebook, and because he did that, he gave up his email address. So then he goes back to work. He doesn't think about this for a while. The need is not that urgent. So a month later, he's still got the same need for manufacturing support, and he gets an email from Peter's company. It's their monthly newsletter, and he got that because he was on the website. He gave up his email, or maybe he got it from the original business card that got exchanged if Peter shared that with the marketing team. So, it could come from a couple of places. But anyway, the lead is now heard from Peter for several times. So this goes on, and another couple of weeks, Peter actually asked to connect with him on LinkedIn, because now that email has reached the social media marketing team. They've gone out and asked to connect with the lead, and the lead picks up the phone and calls Peter, and eventually there's a sale made. So the question is, who gets credit for that sale? Well, we know in this case it's probably Peter, because he's the CEO and he started all this by meeting this lead. But in fact, there was a lot of engagement on the website. There was a social media team involved. There was email marketing involved. So who gets the credit for that? And it's hard because leaders want exact answers for this, and there isn't an exact answer in that way. So you could pick. Some companies pick first touch, so that might be Peter gets the first touch for generating the lead because he brought home the business card. He brought that back to the office. Or it might be that the website gets credit for the lead. If the person spends more than 4 minutes on the website gets credit for the lead. Or it could be the last touch, which would have been the LinkedIn social marketing team gets credit because they were the last one to touch this person before they actually picked up the phone. So there's various models possible. What we say is, some general things. Some of the questions Peter should probably ask are, I'm sorry, I got confused here. So some of the questions Peter should ask are, is the company growing? This is getting to how do we work around all of this uncertainty of data and attribution? So if the company's growing and it's successful, then I think that's an important part, and that's an intuitive look at return on investment. If you want an exact answer, we talked about this a lot. It's going to take a lot of work, and we always say make some estimates, make some assumptions, get some calculations, some tracking, some metrics. And then as you start that, you're just going to find more and more about your marketing. And even if you never get the exact answer for what the ROI is, you'll know where to invest your money. And that's the real key question. So if you do both hard calculation and some intuitive evaluation, you're bound to be fairly successful. And then I don't want to forget about the return on investment that we call soft, which is those are the things that are really pretty much impossible to calculate in an exact way. So some questions Peter might ask on this is, what if a better website would improve the performance of his traditional sales team, his 3 or 4 salespeople that he's got out there doing face-to-face, now virtual, but face-to-face sales, if their job is made easier and their sales increase by 10% because the leads can come back and find things on the website, or their salespeople can point out places to go on the website for additional information, and that improves the whole sales process. What's the impact of that? How do you measure that? How much is it worth to have a bigger and better image? What's it worth over 2 or 3 years for Peter as he tries to grow if the company it looks bigger than it actually is because of digital marketing and he's got a great presence? Or that just helps with that brand awareness, and it's hard to measure that it's always been something that's eluded people, is how do you measure the impact of brand awareness? And then last question might be, are we going to be the go-to company when our prospective leads are looking, our prospects are looking for resources on the web? Are we the company they're going to go to, or they're going to go to one of our competitors? And that's going to make a huge difference in how much we're going to be able to grow. So here are the steps to success, and we're going to finish up on this. I think Peter's new plan is important. So what Peter does after having this discussion is he goes and works with his marketing team, and he starts to track a few metrics. He doesn't get all carried away with it. He's not investing tons of time and money in this, but he picks a few key metrics. He starts to measure them on a monthly basis, gets monthly reports about metrics, and then on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, he goes and spends some time, maybe an hour, analyzing what those metrics telling and thinking about how to make changes. What's next? What's most important? After about 6 months, Peter can start to do a rough return on investment calculation. Maybe he picks top 2 or 3 parts of the marketing system. Maybe he wants to look at paid advertising. And okay, what's the return on investment just from paid advertising or just from search engine optimization? And he makes this rough ROI calculation with a lot of assumptions, the data that he can provide, and they do the best they can. And they get into a rhythm of quarterly reviews and making these ROI calculations and giving the marketing team sales feedback, which they hadn't had before. And then after about a year, they can actually do a reasonably good return on investment. And then for the next year, decide how to reallocate their precious investment funds in the different parts of marketing and digital marketing. So that's how it should go. And I think that provides you a little bit of a roadmap for how this can be your road to success. So I hope you've enjoyed a little webinar. Call us. We'd love to discuss your growth. We do a lot of digital marketing presence research, and most of that's for free. So if that's of interest, give us a call. We've got the phone number here, my email, and our website. So I really appreciate you coming, sitting in on the webinar this morning, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, Hugh. We do have one quick question, though. It's on those ROI calculations. Is customer lifetime value a good metric, or you keep mentioning, the cost over 1 or 2 years? What's kind of the difference there?
You could do it over a lifetime, and that's going to make the ROI be quite a bit higher. Most, for most, if you're building a new building, a construction project, a capital investment, typically you're going to measure that over a 3 to 5 year period to try to get, you're measuring payback and you're measuring return on investment and those things. You're not going to let that run out the whole life of the building. Probably people want to see a return on investment over some little bit shorter period. So I mean, you could, if that's really important to you, but if that life of the client is 30 years, that may be looking out too far, is just my opinion. You can probably do better than that, right?
Excellent. Thanks. All right. Well, thanks everyone again for joining us, and we'll send out the slide deck and the recording, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks much.